Good afternoon and welcome to Sunday Afternoon Review with Simon Strong. I'm here this week to talk to you about School Orgy by Stewart Home, his latest banging bestseller. This is Stewart's 30th book, 30th novel, I think, or something like that. Let me just check. Oh, bloody hell, there's heaps of them. You'll know some of the titles, but I won't go through any of that. I'm just going to talk about this one. This is pretty filthy by anyone's standards. Lots of Stewart's books contain confronting material of one kind or another, and this contains a lot of it all the way through, pretty much non-stop. Good. I'll read you the back cover and I'll interject as I go through it. School Orgy is the sickest novel ever published. Pretty much. It's a literary anti-classic in the tradition of such pornographic masterpieces as the Marquis de Sade's 120 Days of Sodom, Pauline Riaget's Story of O, and Samuel R. Delaney's Tides of Lust. Yeah, that's very true, but I'd like to go a bit further with that. You'll see that I've got my George Bataille hat on. It's got echoes of Story of the Eye, Madame Adouada, the Dead Man, a lot of Bataille's filthiest stuff, but it hasn't got any of the pretentious anthropological hypotheses and speculations that Bataille was so fond of. I have reservations about some of Bataille's work, I have to say, but he did some good stuff and his bad stuff. Never mind that. That's nothing to do with it. But this hat is ambiguous. I should have worn it backwards, but I'm not an old bloke and I look stupid when I do that. This blatantly fictional account of David Hockney's life as a postgraduate art student features a mind-blowing onslaught of whippings, butt plugs, enemas, wax stripping, bondage, vomiting, cross-dressing, branding, gangbangs, urination, tickling, pseudo-necrophilia, enforced chastity, nymphomania, animal play, and a zillion other perversions. Now, the use of the word zillion there is questionable because I don't know what a zillion is. But all the rest of it is true, and it does contain that. I was actually reminded of some of the greatest novels of the Olympia Press in Paris that were published between 1955 and 1965, particularly the work of Norman Rubington, a fantastic pornographer and illustrator. Sometimes both pornographic illustrations or non-pornographic illustrations, but most of the text, what he wrote, was pornographic and very funty as well. He was one of the first blokes to write extremely funty pornographic novels. Massive respect to Norman Rubington, who went by the name of Akbar del Piombo, and this was like reading in many parts an Akbar del Piombo novel, and I would like to thank Stewart for that experience because he's one of my favourites, and he died tragically on New Year's Eve trying to seduce Maurice Gerodius' widow many years ago. He'd only been dead a week, Maurice Gerodius. Anyway, so this book is fantastic. It's a laugh, right? I'll show you some pages at random here and hope YouTube doesn't take it down. The titles are called things like that, oh dearie me, or that, and this, you know, and this too. And it features a whole bunch of familiar names if you're into 20th century British art. It's basically a parody of the art world of the 60s and 70s, and it features a whole bunch of people with the same names as people that actually did exist in this continuum, and they're doing all kinds of sexy things that actually aren't possible to do in this continuum. And sometimes they're not very sexy at all. Fantastic. It was rejected as too scandalous to touch by dozens of so-called independent publishers. Stewart Home's outrageous historical shocker is at last presented to the world uncut and uncensored, all thanks to a record company who've never issued a book before but knew that they had to publish this BDSM extravaganza. 978 1739 675509. Now, it was scandalous. I was actually one of the first people to read this. About 30 other People had read it before. They were all publishers. What rejected it? Nobody else touched it. Stewart, bless his heart, gave me the opportunity to help him put it out through the Wider Tape organisation. And I balked at the opportunity because I was too chicken shit and my balls weren't big enough to do that. So the Wider Tape organisation weren't involved in this. And bizarrely, a couple of weeks later, when my book was finished and went out, I mentioned on the internet I'd written a book, and Stewart said, "I'll publish that sight unseen," and it came out. That's The Bastardizer Polishes a Turd by Chuz Martinez, which is fantastic. But I'm just saying, Stewart did that without having seen it. He offered to publish it. He offered to let me look at this, and I was too terrified to even look at it until somebody else had published it. See, Paul Connolly and new reality records are doing some banging shit, and they're going to be reissuing Stewart Home Comes in Your Face. Stewart Home Comes in Your Face. His fantastic CD from all those years ago with the tunes from Pure Mania. That's coming out. The whole world is going to be a much brighter place in the future, thanks in no small part to the actions of enthusiasts around the world who know good shit when they bang it out. And we will overcome eventually. Okay. Yeah, keep the faith. Keep on chugling.